I think I did that right.
Excellent. Good evening, all. Happy April, or now that April is about to wind down, happy spring. We are actually getting legit spring weather this past week, even though in mid-April we had our quick brief view of summer. Welcome. Why don't we get right into the roll call? We have Lori Toronto here, Patricia, and our newest member, Pat Tony, and Michael Church. For the right into the new introduction, which is we're doing this more and more lately. Pat, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, I'm happy to. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this experience. And my name is Pat Fahey Tony. I am a lifelong Norwalk resident, born in Norwalk Hospital. And I just retired from working at Norwalk Hospital after 47 years as a nurse. I have a bachelor's degree in nursing from Southern Connecticut, and I have my master's in healthcare administration from WestConn. I've had a lot of different jobs when at Norwalk Hospital. Clinically, I worked in med-surg and maternal child. And then I moved on into risk management and quality improvement after some administrative experience in nurse manager. One of the things that I did participate at Norwalk Hospital was I was on the ethics committee for 17 years. And so that was an interesting experience. Many of the things are clinical, but I think the process is not unlike what I'm learning that we do here in on this board. So I'm looking forward to the experience here. Learn as we go. Don't mind my questions. I tend to be very focused on confidentiality. I think that comes from working in the medical field mostly, but I think that's hopefully a good thing.
A very good thing.
Anyway, I have lived in West Norwalk now. We've been here for 35 years. I have 2 grown daughters and 4 grandchildren.
Wonderful.
So,
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, we're certainly excited to have you join us, and learning that you have 17 plus years of ethics experience with the hospital will be treasured on this organization. And certainly feel free to interject at any time, ask questions, and speak freely, as you already have experience and knowledge in this area. And so we welcome you bringing your expertise, and don't worry about the way things have been done. What we're doing is starting fresh, if you will. And so new ideas, new blood, that's the whole point. Feel free to contradict, or I believe in engaging in discussion and hearing each other out and listening to everybody's viewpoint, and just discussing things. So at any time, feel free to pipe in, and
Well,
excited to have you.
thank you very much.
And
May
go ahead.
May I just say really quick, Pat, yeah, welcome. I worked at Norwalk Hospital too. I thought you looked familiar.
Did you?
I was in spiritual care for 14 years. So
You do look familiar.
yeah.
I'm terrible with names. I'm very good with faces. I think that too comes from being a nurse, but
Right. And you see so many people at the hospital, but yeah, I had to step out after my personal life changed, and I'm not around on the weekends because I was on call every night and every weekend. So yeah, for all those years, but I miss it a lot. And yeah, but I looked at her, I said, I know her from somewhere.
Yeah.
There we
You do look
go.
familiar. You look very familiar for sure.
Excellent. And then the other thing you spoke on, Pat, was the confidentiality, and that is one of the key things that our organization contends with. One thing, I guess the first potential lesson from being on this board is when folks ask, have there been complaints filed or any open cases, etc., our standard response is we don't confirm or deny if there's a case or if a complaint's been filed. It's all confidential. And so that is our standard go-to response. From time to time, you may get a call or an email from the media or just the random general public. And it's just not confirming or denying is the best way to go, because once you open Pandora's box by saying, oh, we had one filed last week, or nope,
Mm,
we haven't had any
Mhm.
files. Oftentimes, you might find that in a news article coming up quoting you, whether you realize it or not. And being non-confirming or denying is usually the way to go. So if they do choose to quote you, at least we're not giving away any information. So that's that.
Good thought.
But yeah, so now, do we have any public participation? Is there anybody else that any emails come in or anybody on the call?
So I received no emails prior to this, up until the starting time of this meeting. And besides the 6 of us that are here, we have nobody else.
Excellent. So then we can go into the minutes, which is really just for Patricia. Do you mind if I call you Patricia for this, or Pat A? How would you
Sure,
prefer?
you can call me Patricia for this. It makes it a little bit easier.
Okay.
The third,
Thank
if we get another one, they'll have to be Patty.
Fair enough. So this will mostly be for Patricia A and I, as the other two can abstain, but well, acceptance of minutes from January. Patricia, have you had a chance to review any commentary or questions?
I don't have any commentary or questions. I did have a chance to review these earlier today, so
A motion to approve?
motion to approve the minutes of the January 26th, 2023 meeting.
I will second it. And then all in favor, Patricia and I. Against, nobody was here, and abstain would be Pat and Lori.
correct.
Can I just
Excellent.
make one comment?
Absolutely.
Just for the record, on the page under old business, it says Mr. Miklos. I think
Yep.
that's Mr. Colasar.
Yes,
Just
it should be
Or
Mr. Colzar, not,
right.
yeah, that's his
just
first
for
name.
accuracy, that's all.
Michael, would you
That's
like
what
to, would
mine
either you or
said.
Pat like to amend?
Yes, we will. Patricia will be happy to amend the motion to approve with the change that Pat just mentioned.
Did you say Colazar we wanted, or a different name that we want there? I'm sorry, I just missed that when I was looking. I'm looking at the name Colazar.
Isn't his first name Miklos? And then-
Yes.
I just have Mr. I don't have any name. That's all.
I'll show you, I'm redlining it. I'll show you what I'm doing.
Okay, please.
If you go under old business, Pat found this down at the bottom. It originally said Mr. Miklos. So Mr. Miklos would be Mickey Colazar.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we're just changing it to Mr. Colazar.
Okay,
That's it.
I second that, and then all in favor is Patricia. Yep, Patricia and myself. Opposed is nobody, and abstain is Pat and Lori.
What, from the
And-
change to the Mickey's name?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the reason you guys are abstaining
I wasn't
is,
there, yeah.
yes, correct.
right.
And just so for Pat's purpose, ordinarily I don't speak through the vote and dictate who's doing what, but just since it's the 4 of us and 2 of you weren't at the last meeting, that is why I just talked through this one to make it quick and easy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Believe it or not, I like shutting up a lot more and letting other people do the talking. So you will find that in the future. Moving on to, we can go with old business, I suppose. The one thing I just want to follow through on is I did request about us meeting in person, and the city did engage. ultimately at this time, they don't have the space for us at City Hall. They have limited options to do this hybrid model. And so I will stay on top of it. But at this time, they'd prefer us continuing to stick on Zoom here. And so we will keep monitoring that and see if we can find ourselves space and the ability to do it in person at City Hall as well. Then on to Attorney Candela, do you have what section we're going into to?
Sure. Let me give a
Mhm.
brief summary as to where we are. So there are 18 sections of Chapter 32 of the Code of Ethics.
Mhm.
And so far, this board has reviewed for purposes of putting together PowerPoint slides for a PowerPoint presentation to create YouTube videos for the general public, elected and appointed officials, and also employees of the city of Norwalk. Brief seminars, if you even want to call it that, very brief seminars about each of the sections, so that it's just not one large conglomerate of 18 sections. You can select each one of them and receive a 1 minute to maybe 5 minute video, brief video explaining what they're about. So right now, we have reviewed 32.7, 32.8, 32.9, 32.10, 32.11, 32.14, 32.15, 32.16, and 32.17. So
Excellent.
I believe 32.18, if I recall correctly, there isn't much to it. And I'll double check it right now while we're talking. So what I did was on this agenda, I've put together the remaining sections so that we're not going to be able to get through all of them tonight, because one of them is 32.12, which you probably saw is quite long. And I put that last so that perhaps we could get through other ones first. 32.18, just for the record, is the effective date of this of the ordinance. So again, it's 32.18 really doesn't need to be done. We can if you want, but I'll share the screen and just show everybody. So all the ones that I did not mention, we have here. Some of them will be very quick, like 32.1, 32.2, and 32.3 should be fairly quick. Other ones like 32.4, which is conflicts of interest, and 32.12, which is kind of the procedures for the Board of Ethics to follow, will take a little bit longer, but we can go in order. We can skip if one of them's long and we want to get through other ones tonight. Again, I only have PDF versions of these things, so somebody's gonna have to take notes, and they can provide them to me, those notes, and I can make those changes by just creating a slide if somebody doesn't have these already. But
Fair enough.
we could start with 32.1 if everyone wants to do that.
Yeah, let's start with 32.1. Before we jump into it, just to give Pat a little more backstory to get her caught up to speed as much as we can tonight. A few years ago, we started the process of rewriting the Code of Ethics in its entirety, drawing on from what was already there, but just improving it, making it more current, if you will. We completed that task probably about a year ago now. And then once we had the Code of Ethics updated, we updated the Citizens Guide to the Code of Ethics to reflect the new updated Code of Ethics. And once we did that, what we're doing right here is not rewriting it. This is just to give us slideshows. So when we're prepared to present, as Brian mentioned, online, making short videos or in person, this is what we're going to be using for ourselves, but also for the public to read or have as notes. This isn't to rewrite the code. This is just bullet points from these sections, talking points for each section. As you'll see, some are very straightforward and simple. Some are more nuanced, which will require more nuanced or longer videos to discuss. One of the things, and certainly open to your expertise on this, that we've come to is we can't touch every possibility in every section. So sometimes less is more. You give an example or keep it broad to allow the board itself to, if a complaint comes in, be able to talk it through and see how it applies to the code. You don't want to talk in absolutes particularly, as there's so many nuanced examples that could come up that you can't cover in a simple setting without confusing the crap out of people, including ourselves. So we have tended with less is more, and allow ourselves the ability, should complaints come in, to discuss it amongst ourselves and determine how it fits within the code. So that's as we get through it, if something comes up and you have something you want to say or see it differently, certainly open you to speaking up. But that's how we've arrived here. That's what we're looking to do now. We've probably, as Brian had mentioned, have done over half these slides, so we're hitting the home stretch, hopefully. We did leave some of the more detailed, nuanced slides for last, so you'll get to enjoy that with us. And we can start with 32.1. So then the other recommendation, if while Brian has the slide up, Pat, have you been given or seen the Code of Ethics yet?
I've seen it.
Okay.
I looked it up, what was available online.
Yep. And what I'd just recommend is over the course of the summer, as you have a chance to review it, do so. If you have questions, ask us. At different points, we've all reviewed it, probably some of us several times, some of us tens of times or even more.
More times than you want to count, Michael.
Yep, some of us even more. And so we, even with that, we constantly refer to it to refresh our memory and to talk through it. What we're not looking to do right now is redo the code itself. What the code says, the code says. So while down the road we can consider altering a section here or there if it makes sense to, tonight's purpose and the coming month's purpose is to finish this presentation, if you will, and then putting it out not just to the public but to officers and employees. And so we just want to follow through on that, as that's been a long time coming. And then once we get through that, then we can go back, and reflect on specific sections if we feel the need to update or we come across a shortcoming. All right. Any questions or concerns from anybody before we move forward? Excellent. Brian, do you mind putting 32.1 back up there?
Sure. Hold on 1 second.
While he's doing that, Michael, I just have one question. Is there any, have we had any discussion with personnel about when they're looking to do training for the employees on the updated code?
So the short answer is, there's a slightly longer answer. The short answer is they want us to finish this and see what the training would be before setting a time to have said training. And as an example, we had a January meeting. We weren't able to have the February-March meeting. So out of respect for us and our organization, recognizing that we can only move so fast, they don't want to put something on the calendar for, say, September, and then if we're not able to have a quorum for another month or 3 months, they don't want to put something on the calendar and then have to cancel or push back. Also speaking on us with quorum, the city common council is aware that we are shorthanded. There are 4 of us, and now thanks to Pat, if we're all here, we do have a quorum, but all 4 of us need to be present. There are 3 vacancies still, and they are actively looking and working on filling it up to give us more brain power, more volunteer power, and give us the flexibility if somebody is sick or traveling, that we could still have our meetings. So to Lori, to go back to your question, there isn't a specific date on the calendar yet. We just need to get through our part so that we can get on the calendar with certainty.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Coming up in a moment.
Yep.
There we go. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Mhm.
The cool part about the second bullet point is it speaks to us having 7 members. And as we can just addressed, we're a little short right now, so they're working on that. Is there anything grammatically anybody notices? I think this section is straight and to the point, but does anybody have any commentary or critiques for this initial section?
No, just a thought. It's just,
Go ahead.
well, we're kind of rewriting the code there, instead of like, do we just want to do more general bullet points like, the administration section, and just, I don't know, and because it's kind of wordy. I don't know. It's just my own personal, never mind.
No, going with the less is more. Perhaps the simple way to do this is to advise people that are, listening to this section with the PowerPoint that Board of Ethics members are appointed and approved and voted on by the Common Council, and that there should be 7 of us, 7 of you guys
7 is a full board. Yeah.
on the committee that focus on the board, on the Code of Ethics and the Citizens Guide to the Code of Ethics, and maybe just leave it at that. And then this could be a very quick thing, or it could even be merged with 32 but I agree with Lori. I think when it's as simple as this, and this is pretty simple, we should probably have the less is more approach.
Pretty simple the way it is.
The one thing I would consider adding, if we just stuck with the middle bullet point, when it talks about 7 members, I think it's important for folks to understand that we're divided up politically, that there's I don't know off the top of my head, but 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, or 3 however it is, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, 2 unaffiliated, and I forget how the 7th works. It's somewhere balanced. So I do think that this would be a good place to just point out the breakdown, so that people don't think, for
Yeah.
example, the Common Council is heavy on one political party right now, that that the Common Council appointing us isn't just filling this seats with like kind representation, that we are not a political affiliation, that we are balanced, if you will. And Pat, Lori, and Patricia can speak to this a little, and feel free, ladies, if I misspeak, you're welcome to chime in. But from my experience, I've been on this board over 10 years, and I frequently don't know the political party of the folks on the board. That doesn't come into our meeting. We keep it on content and particulars. And so while obviously all of us have our own political affiliations, that doesn't encroach here. And so that's something I've thoroughly enjoyed about this board and participating on it. And Patricia and Lori, would you agree? Has that been your experience, or have you had slightly different experience?
I agree completely.
Yep, and
Oh, yeah.
this is my 1-year anniversary tonight. This was my first
Ooh.
meeting last year from getting appointed. And quite frankly, I didn't realize there were such restriction of 2 of this and 2 of that. I thought it was more done according to our qualifications,
The
less
limitation
on our
also
political
comes.
affiliation.
The limitation also comes, as you can see in the definitional sections for both the investigating panel and the hearing board. You can't have 3 members of the same political party on either an investigating panel or the hearing board.
There we go.
Um,
There, you
Yeah,
see
that's-
that. The problem is this, having the membership to be able to divide it that way. You know,
Right.
somebody raises a complaint and we only have three of one type, one
Oh, yeah.
affiliation. Do we just put the case on hold, or do we have to go forward?
So 3212A, if you read the screen right now, and I'll just read it
I
out loud.
can't, it's too
I'll read
small.
it out. Yeah, I'll read it out loud quickly. It says, the Board of Ethics shall be comprised of 5 full members and 2 alternate members, each of whom shall be electors of the city of Norwalk. No more than 2 of the members of the board and 1 of the alternates shall be registered members of the same political party, and no member of the Board of Ethics shall be an employee or officer of the city. And then it goes on from there.
Yep.
But essentially, the 5 main members, it's 2 of each party and an unaffiliated. And then the 2 reserves are usually in 1 unaffiliated reserve, and then 1 either party, Democrat or Republican. And yes, Patricia, to your point, qualifications do matter.
Of course.
Not just anybody, but if you have a pulse, that's your qualification. No,
No, no.
but yes, but with that being said, in addition to the qualifications, we do keep track of the affiliation so that we have a fair complement of folks when we need the hearing board or the investigating panel. So it's fair to the complainant. But so with that being said, going back to slide 1, unless, and this is the problem with doing it the way we're doing it, and I don't recall, Brian, in 3212, one of these slideshows, does it touch on the breakdown? Could we just slide down to 30?
Sure, hold on, oh, I took it off, whoops.
No problem. If it doesn't speak to it elsewhere, I think we should put it here, but if it speaks to it somewhere else about what we're comprised of, then I don't think we need to be redundant.
If we do that, I would suggest some kind of caveat that, if having a fully staffed board, it would look like this or that, because when there's only 4 of us, we could all be from the same thing, and you wouldn't, people would be questioning that.
So we can't, you're right, under the ordinance, we can't have we can't have 3 people from the same political party. So that obviously is an issue because of how many people we have. 1. In answer to your question, Michael, 3212, Kara went through painstakingly the procedure. She did not talk about specifically what the breakdown of the entire board could and should be if we're at full strength with 7 people. So that should probably be inserted here.
I think that's a good idea, because I think that people then, for all the reasons that Michael, you just mentioned, it just makes sense to have people understand. Brian, I'm sorry if you said it, understand that it's not a monolithic board.
Right.
Yeah, I think first of all, 3212 is going to overwhelm people.
Yeah.
And for people to know I'm assuming they're going to watch these things in order if we don't give a physical presentation to people. And if they're going in order, they're going to see the very first thing is how is the board appointed and what is their makeup? And the idea is that you guys are a diverse group of political parties, either unaffiliated Republicans or Democrats. It's not all one group. So that, if people perceive fairness by what party they're associated with, then they can see that this board isn't slanted one way or the other. It is a nice even breakdown to the extent that we can be.
So
Yeah,
then,
more conversational tone, like Common Council oversees the administration of the Code of Ethics, and just like, I mean, I'd be happy to work on some of the editing if you guys agree that that we'd benefit by that. But just a more conversational tone with more white space, since it is going to be PowerPoint. I mean, they've got the Code of Ethics to read the detail.
You know what we'll do? I'll save you guys. Let me save you guys some time. What I'll do is I already have a PowerPoint for some of the other slides that were put together. I'll just create a new PowerPoint and save it as a different one. So in 32.1, We want,
We'll take out the first and the third bullet.
take out first and third bullet. Add, well, how members are appointed, political makeup,
Composition of the board, yeah.
composition, yeah, composition,
Good word.
lack thereof.
Well,
Um,
you know, you'd say up to a max of 7.
Yeah,
So so nobody thinks that we're not in compliance if we have less. I mean, it happens, you know, where you don't have a quorum, or, you know, people are away, or we just have open vacancies, we can still function.
Yeah.
So we don't want to imply that there's anything amiss because we're not at full constitution, but yeah, I think that would be, you know, good for people to see.
Yep,
that it's
okay.
balanced.
So we have those, I have those things. So we can, if everyone's okay with that, I'll take a stab.
I'm only okay with it if we say, when fully staffed, the composition, political, party-wise, whatever words you want to use, would be this, and this from the code.
Sure,
Because when we're not fully staffed, we don't meet those qualifications.
I
And
will,
we don't want to not be able to meet because of that, as well as somebody's sick, so to speak.
right, so what we're gonna do is, we kind of went through what you guys are envisioning for this. And we're not gonna vote on this one tonight. I'll take a stab at it. I'll send everybody a draft in PowerPoint format so that people can make edits if they want, or just email me back, and if there's consensus, I can make those changes so that we have the very best draft coming back to us, hopefully in May, so that you guys can hopefully vote on this one and get it through. But if no one else has any other comments, we can go on to 32.2.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so 32.2 is kind of the policy, just kind of, I guess, letting everyone know what, you know, not what they're getting into, but, you know, what to expect if you encounter the board. And
Could we
can
have
go back-
another word instead of fidelity?
What's that?
You know, if people, like, I'm just picturing like average person just reading, you know, this on their own, having to go through the training, you know, like typical person might not know what fidelity means.
Okay, so let's look at the first bullet point real quick. Officers and employees, elected, appointed, paid, unpaid, shall be impartial and responsible to the public. Public office / employment must not be used for personal or financial advantage or
And these
gain.
are, sorry, Brian, I know you to interrupt, but this is for the employees, right? So you can say you cannot use your office for personal or financial advantage. Could we write it that way, or is that not right?
So
Hmm.
this applies to, so the code of ethics applies to all elected and appointed
Oh,
officials,
that's right.
employees, including the Board of Education. So we can, I mean, if you wanted to, we could have a breakdown saying elected and appointed officials cannot use, or we could just say, we could just group them all together and say, you can't use this for either personal or financial. I would use gain instead of advantage. I think, not that people aren't going to understand what advantage is, but
Right.
Being simpler, you're right.
also
Clearer.
employees shall be impartial and responsible. I think the first bullet point is okay. The second sub bullet point, I'll change it to gain.
Or we put a separate bullet in the beginning that says who's covered by this. You know, if you're an elected official, if you're an employee, you know, then you know that's what you means as we go through the document. So you don't have to keep reiterating.
I
It's
don't
not
think
ne-
we're using you in a lot of the other sections, so I don't know if
You know what
you
it might-
guys.
you know what it might
we
be
went through
too?
This style issue the last time we met.
You
kind
know what
of
it might be
deal.
too is, you know, each of these individual bullet points are probably going to be separate little YouTube videos.
Right,
and
so we could
people-
say, I suppose, how we want.
People are going to
Yeah.
see individual, they're going to see employees and officers, and they might not know what that is. And so I think it's easier to just say, even it's a couple more words, I think it's easier to say, employees of the city of Norwalk, appointed officials and elected officials of the city of Norwalk are all subject to this code. So everyone knows who's attending these meetings that you must know, you can't feign ignorance of this. You have to, you
You're
can't,
right,
you know,
right,
it's
that's
there, you should
important.
know about it.
Yeah, yeah,
All right.
I like
We
that.
just,
But then it also gets rid of some words on those slides because we don't have to keep reiterating officers and, you know, like,
Mm.
you know, over and over again.
all right, appointed and elected officials and employees of the city are all bound by this code.
Mhm. Right.
I think that's that's probably the first bullet point on that one. Let's see. And if anyone, please interrupt me if I'm talking and I'm because I'm talking to myself as I'm typing these out, because I'm going to be doing these and then sending them out to you. So officers and
Does it matter? Because you had mentioned including the Board of Education, that tends to matter when we're talking about budgets and things like that for our city, but.
no,
we'll-
I'm adding it in. That's a good point, Pat. Appointed and elected officials and employees of the city of Norwalk, including the Board of Education, are all bound by this code.
Okay.
Officers
You
and
know-
employees shall be impartial and responsible
Mm.
to the public.
You know, some of this is addressed in the next section under definitions,
Yep.
which, I mean, I think that just made it a little more, even more clear. It's- So I think it's worthy of keeping it brief, but understandable for every person.
Please. Shall not. All right, so these are the bullet points that I have, and we have not yet discussed. We only discussed briefly the second two bullet points on 32.2, but let me read you what I have, and then we'll go to the next two because Lori mentioned bullet point number 2. So I have appointed and elected officials and employees of the city, including the Board of Education, are all bound by this code. Officers and employees shall be impartial and responsible to the public. Public office / employment shall not be used for personal or financial gain. Officers and employees must refrain from, okay, so.
Versus must not.
Yeah. Officers and employees must. Do we want refrain or avoid?
Finish the rest of it.
Officers, employees must avoid activities that may affect their personal, business, or financial, well, if we're changing it.
Must not partake in or must not.
Yeah, I mean, I'd make it, I agree with you, Lori. It's gotta be not just avoid, they can't do it. kind
Yeah,
of
you
deal.
can't do it.
Yeah.
Biggest no going there.
All right, officers and employees shall not participate in any personal, business, or financial activities that may affect their impartiality. Is that the right word? What word do you guys want? I know, Lori, you said fidelity is you want out.
Yeah, it's just too old fashioned.
May affect their.
Sorry, Brian, read it one more time.
Sure. Officers and employees shall not participate in any personal, business, or financial activities that may affect their
Their roles, or, I mean, it may affect their
decision making,
Compromise their,
may affect
ability-
or compromise their decision making,
Influence?
influence. I like
Um,
influence better than affect.
Hmm.
Me too.
yeah,
Let me read it to you again.
Mhm.
Officers and employees shall not participate in any personal, business, or financial activities that may influence their decision making.
One thing, so
Yep.
instead of reiterating officers and employees, like it up front, if we say, if you were an officer or an employee, this means, like you're employed by the city, you're elected, and then from now on, we just use you. as
You, that's fine.
You are, like, you must not do blah. You cannot participate in blah. So it's super clear, and it's easier because there's fewer words there, and
Yeah, and it's
Maybe it's a little more
it's
readable.
speaking directly to you.
speaking to you, and maybe it'll hold their attention more. All right, and sorry, and then go back and read the rest of it again.
Sure. So the third bullet point is actually eaten up by the first bullet point, but let's go read them again. Appointed and elected officials and employees of the city, including the Board of Education, are all bound by this code. You shall be impartial and responsible to the public. Public office / employment shall not be used for personal or financial gain. You shall not participate in any personal, business, or financial activities that may influence your decision making.
I like that.
I like it too, but what did we motion on the last time about pronouns? Is that gonna conflict with what we said the last time?
The last meeting, January's meeting, we had made it so it's there as opposed to
There
he.
instead of him, her stuff, but if we go back to
Well,
you,
you is kind of gender neutral.
yep,
Mhm.
What I can do is if you guys want you or there, you tell me which way you want it. I can go back and make changes to those other slides, and then we can bring them back, and it would just be a very quick, we
so
changed it
it's
from this
all
to that.
there the same way.
Right,
I mean, I
so-
don't mind you, I don't mind that. It's just if people are gonna pick this up in sections and not be reading that first section every single time we do a training, you will not keep reminding them that this applies to
We
this
could-
person and that everything we said in this slide.
We could say in every slide, the first bullet point is appointed and elected officials, and
That-
employees of the city, including the Board of Education, are all bound by this code in every
And
single.
then
I
use
don't know. I
you.
think, well, I would I mean, I have to go through something similar every year for my,
So we all do, yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
right.
do
So
too, yeah.
So it's like, I think that you realize that that you're taking this training because it applies to you.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm doing this because I know I have to do it, and this is something. And then probably they're gonna have to certify that they went through the training and completed it. So there's some record for personnel to have.
That's the goal. The goal is to, if this isn't in person, where you have to have like a sign-in sheet, then the goal is
Mhm.
gonna be to have some kind of thing where you have to log in with your email address, complete it, and then you'll get a certification letter, and I guess something will be shot back to personnel or HR, so that the board, so that they're aware of who hasn't completed this, so they can get a
Who
reminder to do
hasn't,
it.
and
Right.
people aren't just leaving their computer on and not watching it. They're gonna have one of those tricks in there, because that's what most of the hand
Well,
ones do.
One of the reasons we decided to break this up and do them each section individually was that these things would be only like 2 to 5 minutes long. And,
Right,
I mean, it's, I think it's,
no, they don't have to sit there for 2 hours, but the 2 to 5 minutes, some people walk away and let it run so that it qualifies them that they passed it and they took it.
well, hopefully at some point, well, part of we can't monitor everything. So I think part of it is, it's not it's an honor code sort of, but I would find it hard to believe that people who are volunteering their time on boards like you guys or other people that are volunteering their time are already taking this seriously, because otherwise I'm sure you have better things to do with your time. You're taking it seriously. I would think that you would want to know that you're not violating the code. And as it pertains to the city employees, you're being paid, you're being asked to do this as part of your job. I quite honestly, to me, it would be offensive if somebody didn't want to know what they're doing is right or wrong, but, you know, and I certainly wouldn't want to do the wrong thing. And if it means that I have to sit there for an hour to go through a bunch of these slides, so be it. So I know what I need to do and who I need to ask if I'm not sure. Because you guys are also here to assist people if they're not sure.
Mhm.
I mean, we could talk about that as we
No, we
get a
don't
little
have
bit
to
closer.
overdo it. This is just not my experience at all running HR offices for global companies. That's why they have programs that people could go in and out of, and it monitors. But in corporate America, a lot of people are required to take 2 full hours, and that's why they time it. And they time it such that it'll shut down if nobody's hit a button or done anything in like 5 minutes time.
I can
So
tell
that it
you,
won't
I
count.
can
Let me
tell you that,
interject real quick, Brian.
yeah,
Patricia, I share a similar experience, and we have bells and whistles for real estate at continuing
you
ed
do.
that we have to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But I would say let's get to that down the road. Let's finish the presentation and then work with the city on how to implement it, that we have those standards, if you will. Going over that now won't, first we have to finish these slides. And then when we get to the actual presentation part, we can work on implementing those standards and procedures, would be my recommendation.
do you guys want there or you in the other ones? Because I can make those amendments and bring them back.
I
Uh,
do for you.
How does everyone feel? I mean, there's 4 of you, so I guess we'll go with majority rules.
Let's split it 2-2 for
think-
fun. And Brian, you
Okay.
get the tiebreaker.
I have no
Uh,
vote. The motion
Well,
would fail.
my concern with the blanket "you were there" is I could be wrong on this. I don't know that that's interchangeable in every context.
What I can do, how about this? If you guys feel comfortable with the language as is for the ones that we agree on tonight, I will update the draft and send it to you.
Mhm.
And then I can take a look at the other ones and I can send you a PowerPoint presentation. And if I made changes, there'll be red lines so you can see where those changes are. And then you guys would have to bring them back and vote on the changes, either yay or if you guys say, I don't like Brian's changes, let's leave it as is, then you don't need to bring it back. But if you say, oh, these changes are fine, let's do it. Or Brian triggered something in my mind, let's do this. Then we just bring it back. You can make those changes pretty quick and we can, just get that one done again. That shouldn't take too much time. The real effort is going through it the first time.
That's not, I'm good with that.
Okay, I'll take a look at all of them and I'll provide you with updates on all of them, and you guys can make a decision which ones you want to bring back. Let me put so let me read this to you again one more time, because I think the third part of 32.2 as we currently have it in the let me pull it back up so you guys can see it before I go back to the. All right, so 32.2, as you can see, the first major point and the second major point and the first sub point we've all kind of talked about. The third point is kind of saying it applies to everybody, which I think we've also talked about. So let me read it to you one more time and then we'll go to the definitions if everyone's okay with what we have. All right, one more time. Whoops. All right. 32.2, appointed and elected officials and employees of the city, including the Board of Education, are all bound by this code. 2, you shall be impartial and responsible to the public. 3, public office / employment shall not be used for personal or financial gain. 4, you shall not participate in any personal business or financial activities that may influence your decision-making. Anyway, that's where we are.
Okay, as you were reading it, you said the officers and elected officials are bound by this code?
Mhm.
Okay. Then I would probably do the next sentence and start it with something that's, so we're tying the you in.
Yep.
As an employee or officer of the city, you shall not be, and
Mhm.
then you can use you from thereafter.
Okay, as an officer
Yeah,
or employee. No, that's good. Comma, you shall be. Yep,
right.
no,
And
that's
then
good.
from there on, we can just continue you if we all decide to go with it. I think if we do there is just grammatically hard to.
Like I said, I'll go back through all of the other ones that we've
Yeah,
already
the-
kind of
the
gone through, and I'll see
showed up
whether there or
differently,
you
and
makes more
there
sense.
was a
And then,
reason we said that,
Yeah.
so.
all right. All right, so do you guys want to vote to have me make these changes and send it back to you guys at the next meeting?
I
Do
did.
we have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Patricia seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
All right, so the third one is definitions. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to put some kind of explanation next to each of these ones that we've identified as being important. Perhaps they should be a little bit less wordy, and these are not all the definitions, so somebody would be, hey, maybe these are the ones they really want me to focus on.
Or just put key definitions,
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, one of the things that I note here is that we don't have, bear with me one second, I'm gonna forget the name of it. Let me pull it back up. The only one we don't have on here is that I'm thinking about is investigating panel. We have hearing board, but we don't have investigating panel. So we might want to add that one in, because those are investigating panel and hearing board are kind of the two ones that would be involved with a theoretical ethics complaint.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Mhm.
So in terms of, I mean, how do you guys want to do this in terms of the definitions? I mean, these look very close to what, they look very close to what is already in the definitional section.
No, isn't this one of the definitional sections? It says definitions.
Yeah, but I mean,
What do you
so
mean?
like with the PowerPoints, we've been trying not to say verbatim what's in the code.
Right,
These
right,
are pretty
right.
close to what's in the code.
They are, right.
Yeah, it's
Some
too
people,
close.
whoever, this has been drafted a while ago, so different
Yeah.
people put in different ways. so.
Again, I don't know if it makes sense to actually have an explanation next to these things, or to just identify to people, hey, these are the ones, they're all definitions are all important, but these are the ones you should really take a look at because they might have some meaning to you.
I don't know. Yes, but maybe we could also edit some of this stuff out so we don't have as
Mm.
many words in here, so we're not rewriting the code.
Yep.
Right.
All right, let me
that
put them
looks-
side to side and maybe we can work on this. Okay. So let's see. Here.
Perhaps a non-popular opinion, specific to this section, the definition section, can that part of the presentation see reference the definitions in the Citizens Guide or the Code of Ethics, and not teach an English class on definition of words to grown adults?
So what do you want them to do, Michael?
Well, no, so perhaps for just this section, and I know this could apply to every section, but instead of putting a word in the definition, under the definition section, we could just say for 32.3, this section covers definitions. And if you're curious of the definitions of the words, please see section 32.3 of the Code of Ethics or the Citizens Guide, as opposed to in a training to say, well, an employee is an individual employee that works for the city of that's employed by, or an elected official is somebody that was elected by the citizens of Norwalk.
I agree.
For a training purpose, I'm just thinking that we don't actually, for just the definition section,
Right.
need to regale folks taking it with what definitions of words are.
I agree. And then, you know, you just say, listen, if there's a term in here that you don't understand, refer to the definition section of the code.
I
Or-
like that
Yeah.
too, because, you know, you never know what's gonna change too. And then you have to go back and change definitions everywhere you put them. So,
That's true.
So then I would propose that when we hit section 32.3 in that bullet point, it'll say, this is the definitions section of the Code of Ethics. If you have any questions regarding the definition of words, please see section 32.3 and then move on to the next slide.
Mhm.
Is everybody, I'll make a motion to do that. Do I have a second?
Let me
Yes.
read it to you first, Michael.
Sure, go ahead.
This is what I have. This is the definition section of the Code of Ethics. If you have any questions about a particular definition, please see
Term,
section
yeah.
32.3 of the code.
Yes.
Yeah, if you
Mhm.
need an explanation of the terms that are in the code, if anything is unfamiliar, then please refer to the definition section of the code. Yeah, something like that.
Okay. I'll put something together and I'll get this one out to you guys as well, just like we're doing with the other ones.
Okay.
Did that one pass, Michael? I wasn't looking.
No, okay,
You didn't.
so I have a motion for Brian to do that. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Lori seconds, all in favor,
Bye.
I,
opposed, abstained, motion carries.
All right, so I think we have a choice.
We're not doing 32.4.
32.4 is a big one.
Yep.
And then 32.5 and 32.6, I think we could probably either do 32.4 or we could do 32.5 and 32.6. It's really up to you.
Let's
When
not
you
do
take a look at-
32.4. Let's see what 32.5 and 32.6 is before we commit to doing them both.
Okay, let me pull up 30. Which one do you want to look at first, Michael?
Let's do 32.5 and see, let's look at it and just see if that's
Okay,
easy enough. It's a little after 8. I don't want to start a 45 minute section at the moment.
so this is 32.5. It's prohibited
Yeah.
representation. It's only
All right.
one slide.
Yeah, so I think we can work on this one at this moment. See if we can knock out another section.
When you guys
Take-
are ready to start making comments, I'm going to take it off share screen so I can start taking notes.
Leave it on the
the
screen
only
for a moment.
problem is I don't have a second monitor up here to see this as we're talking to each other. So I like when you share the screen.
You guys all see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're reading now.
Yes, we're reviewing.
Thank
it.
you. I didn't know why we were being silent. Okay. I'm reading all of this stuff too.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is another one where we could use active language. You know, if it's you that we set on, you cannot, you know. Represent. So confusing.
I would revamp this whole thing.
Yeah, ditto.
Does somebody want to try and take a stab at this for the next meeting?
Yeah, could you just send me that section? I mean,
Sure.
I'm willing to, if somebody else wants to fight me for it, I'm willing to let it go.
Nope, you were quick. All you, Lori. If Lori, if you wanna, I'll do it with you if you want to
Okay,
take
that
a first
sounds good,
stab,
Michael.
and then I'll do it with you.
All right, Brian,
Okay.
would you just send that piece to me?
Yes, 32.5, send to Lori and Mike.
Thanks.
All right, and 32.6 should be
a
quick too if
complete
we,
rewrite. All right.
Yep.
32-6, let's see what this one brings us. All right. Let me just make sure it's not 2 pages. Okay, no, it's not 2 pages. This is about using city property or facilities for anything else other than city work.
I almost think all of this information is necessary to highlight.
Yeah, once again, start off with you. You cannot use or authorize
Right.
others in the city.
You're
Wow.
we're gonna have to go through each section because in the last year, I can remember so many things going back and forth between different ways to say the word you. And I like the you, it's direct, but it's gonna be, what we're doing tonight might conflict with changes that were made again. So Brian or somebody, you're gonna have to go through and
I'm gonna
you
go through
know,
the ones.
search,
Yeah, Pat, the ones that we listed, the ones that I listed at the
because
beginning.
it
that
won't
everybody can-
match, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna match.
The ones that I listed at the beginning that you guys already voted on, I'm gonna go back through
Mm,
and I will take a look at it and see whether you makes more sense. And if it does, I'll send you guys updated drafts.
Good.
We'll put that back in for the next meeting for everyone to
good,
vote.
good. That makes sense, because it is much more direct. It's
Yeah.
just
It's also gonna shorten everything.
2 different ways.
Just to clarify, the purpose of all of this exercise is to create an educational opportunity for the employees and everyone else for the
Yeah.
city regarding ethics.
Yes,
Is this going to be mandatory?
yes.
Is this going to be yearly or once or?
Hold on one second. Let me find it in the code.
Or I'm not even sure that it matters, but
Yeah, even the state gov website doesn't give you too many, guidelines as to how long it has to be, how often it should be done,
Right.
etc. Which I'm used to seeing myself, so it just took a while, but doing the first one, I think it's pretty short.
just
Oh.
while Brian has the section up, just to point out for all members to refresh their memory, if you look to what he's highlighting, but also 32A and B, if you just take the time to read both of those, or I could read them out loud. I'll read them out loud so you don't have to read them. I think this is just important for familiarity with what we're working with. The Board of Ethics shall be authorized to incur costs for providing education and training programs for the city and its officers and employees, subject to the city's annual budget. The Board of Ethics shall also be authorized to incur costs for investigating and prosecuting any alleged ethics violations and in responding to requests for advisory opinions, subject to the city's annual budget. The Board of Ethics shall seek an annual appropriation to be used to cover its costs during the year and may seek such further or increased appropriations as may be necessary to carry out the terms of this code. B, the Law Department shall assist the Board of Ethics in implementing its responsibilities under the code and shall serve as staff to the Board of Ethics and any hearing board appointed under this code. the Board of Ethics, in appropriate circumstances, may retain independent counsel to represent the board, any investigating panel, or any hearing board. Any questions after just quickly me going over that, to provide context or whatnot, self-explanatory, comfortable?
It provides context to us. It doesn't provide any of the other things that we were just mentioning, and it may not even have come into the governmental sphere yet. The amount of time, how often people have to be
And-
trained.
Right,
That's
so
all.
I
Right.
can't speak to,
We can't.
Uh,
That's all we have here. I know it's not in there.
no,
read
what
it.
I'm saying is, I can't speak to what's in employees' handbooks, how frequently they have to do things or what that'll be updated. We are charged not in this section, but we are charged annually to provide education to the city of Norwalk and employees and the public. Yeah, there you go, annual education
Annual
program.
education. Well, we
So-
have that much.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
annual.
But that does not mean I can't speak to that each, employee will have to do it annually, twice every 2 years, or what will be there in their employee contract.
So it's
And the mon-
annual. The educational programs and materials, education programs, the Board of Ethics shall hold or sponsor at least one educational program for the city, its employees and officers annually.
No, that's our job. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is, I can't speak to moving forward
Right.
what, the Board of Education, if they'll say, hey, if you're a part of this, you have to take this annually, or if you're a teacher, you have to take this annually. That I can't speak to. I could speak to, we're charged with doing it annually, putting something on. That's all. Proceed, Pat, if you had any
You know,
additional questions
and-
related to that.
And just so everyone knows, CCM, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, provides a whole host of educational seminars. Usually the issues usually come up twice a year, and typically they try to have one upstate and one downstate. And every year, CCM provides an ethics seminar, usually one upstate and again one downstate. And it's not just for attorneys. Obviously, it'd be helpful for attorneys to go, but I've sat through those meetings and it's not legalese. They try to take you through real world situations and give you hypotheticals. And so over the course of the last 6 years that I've been doing this with the Code of Ethics, I have to do it annually. But CCM offers these programs twice a year. So literally any officer or an employee could go to these things through the city of Norwalk for free because we're a member of CCM. On top of what we would do. The whole point of what seems like an age ago when we started this, the rewrite of the code and then the rewrite of the Citizens Guide, was to make it so that when we provided an educational seminar, that what we were providing people was current. And so this is the last, it's been a long process, but this is the last step before we either did it in person or a virtual one, where hopefully IT would be able to assist us in putting in some maybe questions at the end, or one of those timers, so that the concern of Pat that somebody just turns it on and walks away, that they can't do that, they don't get credit for it at the end. Make it, interactive at the end where they have to answer a question or two, which I could try to come up with as well. Once we're at that point, but this is what we're doing right now is the reason for why we're doing this, is to try and satisfy these requirements that we put into this code.
Brian, would you be able to let us know when the next ethics training, that meeting is?
Sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that would be great.
Sure.
Sounds interesting.
I could also find out, I don't know if they're still doing it. I know at one point they were offering completely virtual at one point, and I think now The last time I saw, I think there was a virtual option for some of these things. I don't know if that's still the case, but it was the last time, which was that I did it, which was 2 years ago. Because I did my
Excellent.
ethics training somewhere else last year.
Yep.
All right, so let me put back up 32.6 again. Does somebody want to take a shot at 32.6?
So yeah, send, or you don't need to send it to me. I have it. I will have Lori initially do 32.5, and then I will help her with that. I'll rework 32.6 a little, and then we can work on that, signing off on it next meeting. Is there anything else that anybody wants to do tonight? I am conscious of the time, so I don't want to start a new section unnecessarily. Is there anything else? Think we're good?
Just so, Michael, just so everyone's aware of where we are with what
Yes.
we've done and what we have to do. We have 32.4, which is conflicts of interest. If people want to take a look at these in advance of next meeting, 32.4, conflicts of interest. The next one would be 32.13, which is the effect of a violation of the code. That's a little bit more straightforward. And then the last one would be 32.12, which, while it's quite lengthy, I don't think is as intellectually challenging as 32.4 conflicts of interest would be. I think from what we experienced going through Common Council, the most pushback we had, the most questions we had were about conflicts of interest. So those are, and as you can see, 32.12 is quite long. Those are the only three we have left to do. 32.12 through to 32.13 and 32.4 are the only ones we have left to do where we haven't had an initial conversation about the PowerPoints.
Okay.
Excellent. So yeah,
Great.
so before the next meeting, I would potentially review those fresh in your
Mhm.
mind, so we can come in. I don't know, we'll see how the timing goes. My goal would be to tackle 2 of the 3. And if we can get to all 3, great, but I think it might be a tall order to do 32.4 and 32.12 in the same meeting. And of course, if it works, that's great. But I would start with 1 and stay fresh, and hopefully we could follow through and finish it, and then go from there.
Oh,
Um,
just so everyone's aware, so the first thing is I'm going to be sending out an email to you guys individually, and this is just for your convenience. It's going to have a link to both the Code of Ethics and the Citizens Guide, because the Citizens Guide is difficult to find right now. So I'm going to send it to each one of you, so that this way you have access to them quickly. You could just save them as a bookmark on your
Thank you.
computer or whatever, but at least they're there.
Yeah.
Just for the record, if you are able to find the Board of Ethics website, if I Googled Norwalk Board of Ethics and it popped up, if you go to that, it has everyone's name, contact information, whatever. At the bottom, it has a link to both the code and the Citizens Guide, and some other things as well. But we made sure that those 2 things were on the website so people could locate them if they Googled it properly. And again, if somebody asks me about one of those things, I email it to them, resident, employee, officer, doesn't matter. I email it to them because they're entitled to access to these things, but I will send you these links. I already sent one to Pat because Pat T is the newcomer. So I already sent it to her. I'll send it to the remaining 3 of you. So this way, again, you have access to those things quickly.
Oh, and actually one more thing, I meant to do this earlier in the night and just remembered. Patricia was nice enough to go to the League of Women Voters. I'll let her speak on it in February after our January meeting, an event they had at the Norwalk Library. And I was just interested to hear how it was, how her experience was. So feel free to share 30 seconds or 3 minutes, whatever floats your boat on how that experience was for you.
It was a very, well, it was great to go the first time and see all of the types of programs the League of Women Voters, tries to do with debates and everything else during our elections. But they started to talk about a subject completely different from the agenda, which was to meet and greet your city officials, people working on committees, people who were elected, to be, say, mayor or somebody else, right?
Mhm.
And we all just sat there for a second, and then I guess the leader of the moderator of the meeting remembered to have everybody to stand up and introduce ourselves. So we did get to see everybody else, names that I haven't heard, that I've heard of in the city, but just couldn't put a name to a face. And even, I guess, our former Mayor Moshe was there to ask some questions, and people seemed to gather around him. They had a lot of questions for him at the end of it.
Mhm.
And then we went into, they had two other firms there to do pre-sos on Michael. My notes are in a folder upstairs.
No, that's
so,
okay.
I forget exactly what our pre-sos were, but it was about a 2-hour gathering. And it was just very nice to meet and greet some other people on committees in our city versus, not knowing that. But I think they could have done it more informally if we had done it in the beginning and introduced ourselves, and then we're walking around after that, say a coffee or whatever, people, or a Q&A, a more formal Q&A of city workers. That would have been a better use of the time so that people can get to know us if they want to.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad.
And I would
thank-
do it
oh.
again. I'm scheduled to go to something there in a couple more weeks, as a matter of fact. There's another, it's not about introducing city topics. It was something else that I was interested in. So I'll let
Excellent.
you know what that is, and can report on that if it's something that's pertinent. So,
Excellent. No, thank you for sharing, and I'm glad you went and had that experience. And thank you, Pat, for well, first, Patricia, congratulations on your year anniversary. Pat, thank you
You're
for
right.
completing your first meeting. A bunch
Yay.
Thank you.
and I will look forward to seeing all three of you at our next one. In the meantime, enjoy, have a marvelous start to May. And Brian, thank you as always for being the tech savvy guy that you are and guiding us with all the legal aspects of things. So greatly appreciated. And I'll be seeing all of you next month, hopefully.
Thanks, everybody.
Got
Welcome,
it.
Pat.
Night,
Okay,
everyone.
Take
thank
care.
you.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.